The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John.
Glory to you, Lord.
God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, so that everyone who believes in him might not perish, but might have eternal life. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world might be saved through him. Whoever believes in him will not be condemned, but whoever does not believe has already been condemned, because he has not believed in the name of the only begotten Son of God. And this is the verdict, that the light came into the world, but people preferred darkness to light, because their works were evil. For everyone who does wicked things hates the light, and does not come toward the light, so that his works might not be exposed. But whoever lives the truth comes to the light, so that his works may be clearly seen as done in God. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
The story has it that when Karol Wojtyła was elected Pope as kind of the compromise candidate between the very conservative Cardinal Siri and the allegedly rather liberal Cardinal Benelli, that he wanted to take the name Stanislaus. Unlike Francis, he wanted Stanislaus I, guess sort of assuming that he might stimulate more Polish popes who would want to take the name Stanislaus. I don't know. But it seems like the cardinals convinced him that that could be a little provincial or even divisive, and maybe to take the name John Paul II in continuity might be a good thing to do at that point. I think it's fairly clear that just as Francis was elected by surprise, so was Wojtyła elected by surprise, and probably in each case, within the first few moments after that election, they pretty much decided that the Spirit of God is the one that brought them to this place, and the Spirit of God was the one who would guide their papacy. And I think probably each one of them had a almost immediately after they accepted the election, had a firm concept, a firm goal as to what their papacy would be, what would be the heart of their papacy. And I think that given his past experience, Stanislaus was a paradigm for what John Paul II saw as the greatest need and the heart of his mission, and that was to directly confront the evil of the worldly powers of government, embodied, of course, in the communist regime. And he had very direct experience with that. But that's exactly what Stanislaus did originally and died for. So Stanislaus remained in many ways the guiding spirit and the I would say the driving force of what I think John Paul II saw as his primary mission. Probably the other side of that was to maintain, as Stanislaus did, the integrity of the church amid countless forces that could be divisive. And one may not always agree with all of the directions that John Paul did, but I think the his overall passion was for unity of the church to counter the worldly forces of oppression and divisiveness. And, well, certainly in the liberation of significant parts of the world from the yoke of communism, there are other yokes that are descending upon us, but that particular yoke was, was pretty much dissolved and dissipated. And I think we can probably say that Stanislaus was one of the guiding spirits in what has happened, whatever has happened for good in our world in the last 40 years or so. Very possibly Stanislaus proved as a model. I do have one other thing that I would like to relate to this from the gospel, and that is the role of the church today, and our role within the church, perhaps. I see a lot of articles, a lot of laments about, we are losing, we have lost the millennials, we are, we could count on the previous generations kind of returning to the church, but their children are not returning to the church, and we are wondering how to address that. And it dawned on me, and as I say, I think this goes hand in hand with my reflections on Stanislaus, that we may be asking the wrong question. It's not how do we get people back to the church, it's how do we bring them Jesus. And of course, it's not our job to bring Jesus to people. It may be more our job to try to entice people to come to Jesus, because he is there. He is with them. It's the question often, I think, is, are we enough with Jesus that Jesus shines forth through us? So that's sort of my reflection on this particular gospel. Quite frankly, I'm going to be thinking more about this today as I go about the business of the day, because I think that there is something really, really powerful that is speaking to us, speaking to me in this particular gospel today.